Hello and welcome to the Big Bang Theory podcast. My name is John. I'm here with my friend and colleague Dan.
Hello.
Hello. It was a battle of good versus evil, of capitalism versus socialism, of Matt J versus Manchester United, of Gary Neville versus Tag.
Yep. And who came on top?
Of course, the good guy in the story, Julian Tag, triumphed.
Of course he did.
Of course he did. You've read the novel before, listeners. You know how it works out.
It'll go down in history, won't it?
Exeter City 1, Salford City 0.
Yep.
You know, they had to buy a cathedral. Gary Neville literally built a cathedral, had the guy from Barcelona come and carve it, just so they could call themselves Salford City.
I believe that.
Yeah.
And then he probably sacked it. Gaudi, this cathedral's no good. I know you've only been working on it for about 5 minutes, and you've done a pretty good job considering the circumstances, but you're sacked. I'm getting someone else in.
Yeah.
I'm getting in... Oh, I don't know any other cathedral builders.
Norman Foster.
Foster's in.
I mean, did he build a cathedral? Probably not. Anyway, you know that Norman Foster got rid of all the statues of like St. John and St. Peter, and it's just Beckham and Scholes and Rooney's there.
Yeah. That's the narrative, and we're here to smash it down.
That's right. Exeter City, 3 losses on the bounce, recovered nicely just in time to give Salford City a taste of their own medicine, by which I mean winning.
Yeah. Regular listeners will remember that you and I think probably me more vehemently predicted Exeter City to lose this match. Now, I don't know if it's... I want to admit my lack of research here, but Salford hadn't actually scored a goal for 4 games leading up to this. And I think we made it 5 because they didn't score. And they weren't the biggest threat in the world, although we did have to spend a large portion of the game defending.
I mean, statistics can be manipulated to tell you anything. So the truth was, of course, they'd not scored in the league, but in the interim, they'd won the Papa John's pie, hadn't they? So
yeah,
it was league.
Okay, right, sure.
But yeah, you're right. They're not the informed team. But then, of course, in League Two, you could search desperately for an informed team, and I think you'd struggle to find one. Anyway, so
Exactly
Salford
right.
came to St James's Park.
That's what makes it even stranger that they sacked the manager after, when you're 9th in the league.
They travelled down on just a river of cash. They just had a hose pipe full of cash running in Manchester, and they set it on the hill.
That Champions League money, 1999.
That's right. And all the players just sat on that, and they just rode it down the mountain all the way to Exeter.
All filmed on a sharp view camcorder.
Expect so. But it didn't work for them. Even that kind of luxury travel wasn't good enough. So, I mean, it was an interesting kind of game, really. Not dissimilar to the games we played previously. First kind of point of notice was Bowman didn't start.
Yeah.
Ben Seymour.
Yeah. It was a strange one. It's a bit like we basically set up, I think, pretty much in the same personnel and formation that finished the last game.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah. So more of a kind of like the attacking version of our tactic, 4-4-2 style, but with no big man.
No.
And by that I mean the big man. And
God.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ryan Bowman. And the little fella, Ben Seymour, in.
Yeah. Which I don't know. I was reading too much into it, of course, because the week previous, Taylor had slated some players not playing for the shirt, senior players not performing, and Bowman had got taken off, which in itself is a surprise. After the game, Taylor said that wasn't the case, and that Bowman just needed a rest, which I can firmly believe.
Yeah. But the thing that's strange is it's like this is like of all the times to rest him, there's been so many in the past where you've played every single minute of every single game, and you think, hang on, we're playing in the, against the bottom of the league at home or something, and Bowman's played 20 games running. Why not give Seymour a chance in this one rather than in a kind of must-win game against contenders for a playoff place?
Yeah.
So I believe it, but I kind of like, I'm not 100% convinced it's not something to do with the fact that he wasn't totally happy with how Bowman performed in the game before.
And I suppose he kind of he hinted at this. He was really happy with Ben Seymour and said like he knew that Seymour would have been disappointed to have been left out after the games he covered for Bowman when he was suspended. So maybe it was two things at once. It was Seymour had risen in his, gone up in kind of Taylor's books, and also Bowman had maybe slightly dipped in Taylor's thoughts about everything. So anyway, there we are.
And also I think there's an aspect where a lot of people are speculating that we're 10 games away from the end of the season. Looking to the future. There's every chance Ryan Bowman won't be here next season, Ben Seymour will be.
Yep. Yeah.
So, the more chance he can get to, start games, competitive games, the better, really. So the better prepared he'll be if he's, to play a bigger part next season.
It'd be interesting, won't it? Because Seymour and Jay is a kind of dream partnership in terms of the academy, in terms of if it works, it's brilliant.
Yeah, and in terms of, that looks like you're playing the ball on the deck, doesn't it? If you're a fan of that.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, Matt Jay, what did it take him? 3 years, really, to establish himself as...
Yeah, that's absolutely true. But part of that was, if you remember, a lot of us, not just people on this podcast, but generally Exeter City fans, really kind of calling for Matt Jay to be given more of a chance when he really wasn't being. He was kind of like he would only play if Nicky Law was injured or it was against absolute nobodies in like the EFL trophy or something. And we were all, every time he played, everyone would say, "Why can't Jay get in the side?" And then now he is his first name on the team sheet, as they say.
Yeah.
The other thing to mention actually from the starting lineup is that 6 academy graduates in the starting 11.
That's nuts, isn't it?
Which is crazy. And I know the kind of like pandemics kind of forced their hands with that a little bit, but still.
I mean, you see why other teams are struggling. Like, if you don't have an academy or not a high-functioning academy, what on earth do you do? I mean,
that is. I don't know how other teams' academies work because I don't pay too much attention, or what that's comparable in numbers to other teams. But 6 starting in a league match, and the team to be competing for promotion still.
Yeah.
I mean, how close we are to it, but I wouldn't blame necessarily on the young players.
No, and it was alluded to in like every interview, wasn't it? Like, there's the Salford way, background boo, and there's the Exeter City way.
Well, there's definitely a contrast, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah.
We've had 2 managers in 20 years or something.
Yeah.
Like 3 in 20 probably is not too far from the truth.
Well, it's 2 in 15, isn't it? Definitely, yeah.
And they've had 3 this season.
Yeah. And all the money spent on those players. Like, listeners to the podcast won't be surprised to hear this kind of mix of exasperation and like incredulity that they can persuade a player. By the way, more fool those players when you look at the current league table.
Not necessarily. They're probably getting paid a fair old wage.
Well, yeah, fair enough. But, players drop down from League One, or when they were in the conference, drop down from the league, or will come from a really top Scottish Premier team, to come. And it's crazy. And then you look at, I don't know how much we spent on our first team, but it's very, very small amount. If anything, who there in that team have we paid for? Did we pay for Bowman?
I think
yes.
Bowman cost a bit of money.
But we're talking 5 figures, aren't we? I think, or 6 at the
moment. Oh yeah, who knows? We haven't spent much money on that team. Let's put it that way. That's true. And 6 of them, were from round here.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was
without going on about how great we are too much. I mean,
it's just very.
It's easy to do it against Salford, but yeah, that's totally interesting. Contrast, isn't it?
So the game started, and actually Salford were on the front foot. They looked very lively. James Wilson, who I remember playing in the Premier League for Manchester United, and he's not old. He's not like Clinton Morrison turned up on his Zimmer, is he?
He's not Jay Spearing.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
They looked lively, didn't they? And Anderson, I believe, it's hard to say, isn't it? But looks like he made an excellent save. Pushed the ball onto the bar.
Oh, this guy, is that the guy? Was it James Wilson? He cuts in on his left foot and he curls
it. It was him or not.
I don't know who it was, but yeah, I mean, I think Anderson's claiming he got something on it because certainly on EFL on Quest.
Oh yeah.
The Freeview program about lower league football. They said he tipped over the bar.
Hit it onto the bar, and then of course there was a rebound, and then McArdle did his absolute best kind of Morris dance on the goal line and cleared it second time.
Yeah, do you know what? I mean, we've criticised McArdle and praised him. I think we, over I don't think I need to qualify this, but like his positioning on that is just like that defensive experience. That's where it comes in. If you watch him when the shot hits the bar, he instantly gets into position on the goal line, anticipating the rebound, and it's just like you can't buy that kind of experience. Well, you literally can, but like it's good that we have.
Yeah.
It's great, I thought there's a couple of times in the game. Like, Mercado has a superb match.
Yeah.
Like and so did Hartridge. I thought there was a couple of times when we were a bit lucky, actually. Do you know what I mean? A couple of headers they had where they should have done better on. But on the whole, what a performance! And I think he's in. I don't know. There's all sorts of teams of the week these days knocking around, but he was in one of them.
Yeah. They were all good, weren't they? All four. And it was a change from the previous week. So it was Key, McArdle, and Hartridge and Page, wasn't it? Which is.
I think on the whole, that's the back four people want to see, isn't it?
I think so. I can see why Caprice is a good backup.
Well, the difference is, like, look at that game. So we kept a clean sheet in that one, playing with four at the back, and a more attacking, you might want to say, defensive line.
Yeah.
It just makes more sense, doesn't it?
I think so.
Josh Key, on the other hand.
Yeah.
What a player he is.
Unbelievable. I mean, he was...
I think I'd be most disappointed if, out of all of them, if one of them was going to leave. I think I'd be most disappointed if it was him.
He's kind of gone under the radar, I think.
Oh, yeah. I don't think he's in any immediate danger of going, although who knows, he could be. If he carries on the way he's going, he will be, though.
Yeah.
He'll be very much above the radar.
I mean, think about George Friend, who was a very, very good fullback at points. Like, it took him a while, but he was good, and he played in the Premier League. He captained all sorts of championship teams. I can't think where he is now. Is he Cardiff now? But
yeah, he left Borough last season, didn't he?
A brilliant player. Josh Key looks head and shoulders above him, from what I remember of Friend back then.
Yeah, I mean, I can only remember bits about, but I remember just being excellent. But like, I mean, a couple of his kind of ball control, Josh Key, but also the kind of intelligence. He kind of gets past players when every single time it looks like there's no way he's getting through there, and he always does.
Yeah.
And I think defensively he's coming on massively in a really short space of time as well.
And you can see now, whether it's right or wrong, you can see that Matt Taylor bringing in McArdle, who, as we've said, is kind of 50-50, sometimes, has been pretty poor, has been really good. Taylor talks a lot about how useful it is for the young players to have him around, and you can see that. Well,
I think the fact that Hartridge has exclusively played alongside McArdle, and look again, he's another one we could talk about all day about how much he's just literally improved in front of our very eyes. In the last few.
Well, it's been 3 months, hasn't it?
Months, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great to see, isn't it? And it's like. Yeah, playing against Salford kind of really brings it into focus, doesn't it? I mean, like having these having a kind of effective academy, and then to not only kind of think, oh, that's such a good thing, and be able to watch them play and think, see them playing so well, and think, oh, these are some of our best players. It's brilliant. This is the right way to go about it.
Absolutely. So, we were under pressure for 15-20 minutes, weren't we? And then we broke out. We had a few kind of breakouts. I think Wilmot put the ball across to Taylor. I think that's right. Who had a shot, kind of pinged around, didn't it, and landed to Matt J.
I think the shot kind of hits Matt J. I think.
Oh, was it J that it hit?
Yeah, and it sort of bounces straight into his path, and he's not missing from there, is he?
No,
not Matt J. Not this season.
No, that's right. So 1-0, very nice. And then pretty soon afterwards, we could have had we did have a very good penalty shout. Could have had a penalty. Probably should have had a penalty. Hit the player's hand, the defender's hand, didn't it?
I'd say in 2021 it should be a penalty. Personally, my view of what a penalty should be, that isn't a penalty. Mm-hmm. But then I would also probably put Page's one in that from the week before in that category. If it bounces up and hits the guy's got his back turned. I mean, it does absolutely hit his arm and stop the ball going. So I'm not going to kick off if people decide that's a penalty, but. It's a mistake.
Well, agreed, but I think the current...
I don't think there's anything you can do about it. That's what I mean. You can't play with your arms by your side.
Well, you can't... Well, they do, though, don't they? That's the kind of view of... You
You
can't.
can't defend like that, not in real time. Like from set pieces or something, all right, maybe. Like you can keep your arms, but when you're just running,
Yeah.
in real time, you can't keep your arms like a penguin.
No, I mean, I'd agree with you. I think if your arm's raised, it's a deliberate, or you have to see it as deliberate. If it's by your side, even if it's out, unless you've stuck it out.
All right, yeah. If your arm's like actually right out horizontal,
Yeah.
that's different, isn't it? But if your just arms in a kind of like normal kind of motion position, down but away from your body, I don't know. Anyway, we could have had a penalty.
But it wasn't given. It wasn't given anyway.
It wasn't.
Taylor argued.
The ref agrees with me.
The ref agrees with you. The fourth official agrees with you. Matt Taylor pointed out that, like you said, Lewis Page's won a few days before.
I agree with Matt Taylor there. If Page's one is, then that one is. But
Yeah.
it's not the same ref. It's not the same fourth official. And,
So half time 1-0, very nice.
just very quickly on what we're talking about with the youth players. I think there's a lot of after those 3 losses. Obviously, all the kind of like psychos creep out with the Taylor out kind of.
Yeah, change your Twitter handle to
Just
Taylor out.
like whatever. They're probably just children, but like. You can't. He's got to take some credit for that. One, he used to be the under 23s manager, so he's played a big part in their development. He's been allowed to and has developed these players in a good way by giving them actual valuable kind of game time, and we give our managers time. We give the manager time to do these sort of things, and it's a good thing that we do, because if we were like Salford City, Taylor would have been sacked. And then what happens to the development of those players then? Do you mean like they're benefiting from the consistency, if nothing else? So
Absolutely.
I just think he needs to take some credit there, and I don't think people are really giving him any for it.
No. And I mean, it's football. It's the ridiculousness of football, isn't it? Or modern football. There seems like there's only 2 settings in most clubs, Salford being kind of prime.
Yeah.
You're either pleased with the manager.
This is mirrored in society at large, I think, with most things.
So. You're either pleased with the manager or you sack him. There's no like, well, if we could do these 3 things, then that would be really great. And
no, yeah, totally, yeah.
Whether it worked with Tisdale or not, there was, and in a way it did, and in a way it didn't. He left, which is what some people wanted, because he didn't want to change. And in a way it didn't work, because he didn't change. But there was at least discussion.
And we are still in League 2.
And we are still in League 2. But there was the discussion of, well, if we could do X, Y, and Z, then that would be really positive. He chose not to. I feel like Taylor, and we've heard from Taylor that he's in the meetings, as much as Tisdale ever was, about budgets and about what he's going to ask for, and I'm sure, I hope that in those conversations there's, instead of do this or you're sacked, there's it would be really great if we could make this happen, which is obviously a much more productive way to work.
Yeah, but like you say, it's not necessarily it's not the kind of modern way of approaching anything, is it really?
No.
So, but it's nice that that's a reality. Yes.
When Klopp didn't win the Champions League, I recall a phone-in where people went mad. He's got to go, right? If that's not a lesson in sticking with someone a bit, then I don't know what is. And I realise we're not working with Jurgen Klopp, but, football's just so keen on sacking.
I mean, yeah. I mean, look at the opposition, like we were talking about. 3 managers in 1 season.
Completely bizarre. And Salford, I mean, I think anyone who knows anything about football wills them not to succeed. And probably eventually they will succeed, whether it's this year or in 5 years' time, they'll get up to League One.
Well, yeah.
But, it's just a desperation that...
I'm not quite sure what the hurry is.
I mean, what do they want? Because then, they're literally not allowed... Because some of those players have got ambitions of various things, haven't they? Either whether it's club ownership... or whether it's and I'm not talking about Salford, I mean other clubs, or whether it's management. Obviously, Scholes has been in and out of management.
You mean they own Salford City?
Yeah. I mean, what? Because they can't. I mean, they don't want them to be against Manchester United. Like with Forest Green, matey, you understand his rationale, right? Like he wants to show that it can work as a sustainable club, and B, do as well as possible. And it's true that. They've got a square, 30 miles where there's no other football club in the football. Salford are surrounded by football clubs. All of their owners are massively directly affiliated with one of the biggest football clubs in the world, which are 2 miles away.
And various other ones in the area. Let's not forget, Neville was...
Yeah, Bury and all that.
Ties to Bury. Paul Scholes has got ties to Oldham, or, or definitely an Oldham supporter, was a manager for about 5 minutes. It's
So what is it? Like, is it just
who
vanity?
knows?
Like, it does feel like it's just vanity.
I imagine, that's probably what it is. What it sounds like to me is, and this is, it's part of a broader point that footballers, when they retire, don't really know what to do with themselves, and they've got an awful lot of money.
Yeah.
And I think that's just what they've decided to do without really, I don't know, maybe they haven't really thought about too far into the future, or maybe they just kind of sit back once that's happened, and I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, bizarre. So anyway, it was good to see it work. Second half, we came out. We were pretty, it was a defensive performance, wasn't it? It was akin to Newport. Now, obviously, we had the full 11, but it was backs to the wall, wasn't it?
It was just headering it away
Yeah.
for 45 minutes, basically, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it worked.
It did work, yeah. I think Jake Taylor came off at half time, didn't he, for Nigel?
Yeah, injured.
Yeah. Or at least hurt a bit, yeah.
I mean, Taylor's like Bowman. He plays a lot of football, doesn't he? So.
Yeah. Can't fault Nigel either in this game, I don't think, really, especially given the task in hand.
Yeah. It's more the game that kind of suits him, isn't it? You don't want him to be in the opposition box or anywhere near it. You want him to be...
No, and you don't necessarily want him on the ball when you're trying to launch an attack.
No.
But he can hack it away, can't he? We do so much you think you've cleared it, but actually you've just gone directly up into the air.
Did you see his Instagram?
You can't really see from the camera. You think, oh yeah, he's got it away. Oh no, he's just got it up.
Gone up a bit.
Just gone up in the air.
Did you see his Instagram story?
No.
There's a picture of him in his City tracksuit on the sofa with the caption "tired."
Brilliant.
I mean, he'd worked hard, so fair enough.
Yeah.
But
Very literal content.
Yeah, I feel like Attenganer's tired a lot.
Yeah, that could be his profile picture. Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm saying the walk from bed to breakfast probably wears him out.
Poor old Nige.
How was your sleep, Nige? Says his mother. Says Mrs. Atengana. I'm tired, Mum. He's not a morning person, is he? Nor an afternoon person.
I think he's he's how old is he?
Not as old as his tiredness would suggest.
No, maybe not.
I think he's about 30, isn't he?
I think he's a bit older than that, but he's not quite McArdle, kind of like
Time goes different in France.
octogenarian.
No, he's not that. No, he's not that. It's a bit like Prince Charles and Prince Philip, isn't it? You think Charles is old till you see his dad.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
You think Charles is looking quite old, and you're like, oh, that's because Skeletor's his father.
Yeah.
Anyway, Atengana came on, and then with about 20 minutes to go, Seymour went off, and we brought on, one-man vigilante army in the name of Ryan Bowman.
Yeah.
Who set about being probably his most scumbaggish I've ever seen him.
Human embodiment of the word disgraceful.
Yeah. He's, Elvis had Graceland, he's got Disgraceland, doesn't he?
It was good though, wasn't it? It was what we needed to happen.
Love him.
It's not the best watch.
No.
It's not the best watch anyway when all you're doing is headering it away for half a match. And I got a bit bored, to be honest, but I was glad it was happening.
Do you think it's the kind of match that 3D telly's made for, so you can see where the ball's actually gone?
Maybe that didn't work, did it? 3D football. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, didn't catch on.
Nope. I remember they sort of tried to make 3D a thing in the 90s, and then it sort of didn't really happen because it wasn't that good. And then they tried it again probably 10 years ago, wasn't it now? Maybe a bit longer.
There's two problems, aren't there? Thing number one, no one wants to wear glasses. Thing number two, lots of people do wear glasses. And what are you doing then? You have to do them over the top.
And also, if you're talking about football, football is very much reliant on how good the game is and not whether or not how many dimensions you can see. If it's a rubbish game of football, it's a rubbish game of football in 3D.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, fair point. So 3D or otherwise, Bowman was an absolute swine. My favourite bit was when he pushed over their keeper and then landed on him.
Yeah, that was great.
Raging. And he's so good at, the minute he does it, he's got that kind of apologetic, oh no, I didn't mean it to go that far face. Which you know that he did.
Looking at the ref, sort of like,
what?
His sort of shoulders sort of hunched up
Yeah.
like he does.
Hands out in appeasement.
Yeah, and then
he took his lessons on appeasement from Hitler, didn't he, basically? Is that a bit harsh?
I think comparing him to Hitler on any levels is
I'm not saying he's like Hitler. I'm saying that Hitler cried appeasement while filling the Rhineland with troops.
Yeah, no, that is factually accurate. But whether or not Ryan Bowman has seen that, and then thought I'm going to apply this to my game.
No, all right.
Probably not the case.
Sorry, Ryan. I don't mean it. I mean it in. I don't want to sound
However,
like I'm
if he
praising
was
Hitler here, but I mean that positively.
Yeah, and if he was as good at defending the ball in the corner as Hitler was at defending, I don't know. There is an analogy there, but it requires a bit of a deeper knowledge into the Third Reich.
Yeah,
Anyway, what I'm trying to say is he's not that good at keeping the ball in the corner.
No, he's not, is he? But he is good at making an absolute nuisance of himself.
Yeah.
And he did do that, and that relieved some pressure at times. And Seymour...
Oh, absolutely
Whether
did.
Seymour can ever be that kind of
And
player.
he kind of won a couple of fouls too, you know what I mean? And, which is,
Remarkably.
but because if you annoy someone enough, they'll boot you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it works.
He's very
and then
annoying.
That really takes the pressure off. It's almost like a kind of like opening a valve, wasn't it? You know, in that game, when it's sort of like when we'd have a free kick or a throw in their half, it was like, oh, flipping that, you know, like, and it just seemed to drag on forever. That's it. But then it's strange that that's what we were talking. Everyone was talking about before, and Matt Taylor himself was talking about how it's all very well playing really well and losing.
Yeah.
Whereas what we want is to play horribly and win.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I think probably I disagree with that as a broad statement, but in this case, you know, in small chunks, maybe I agree with it.
And, you know, we didn't ride our chances. Like, we did that very professionally. I think Anderson made the save onto the bar, and then there was one with his feet in the second half. But he wasn't massively under pressure. He didn't have to be like world save after world beating save after world beating save, did he?
I don't. Maybe Gary Bowyer hasn't had a huge amount of time to prepare, because it very much looked like he looked at us and gone, okay, well, they don't like high balls into the box. That's just what we'll do. And that is just what they carried on doing.
Yeah.
Just over and over again. And actually, the couple of times where they did something different was when they had both those two efforts.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe they were, you know, he could have, if he had a bit more, given a bit more time, ironically,
Lol.
then they might have had a bit more luck.
Yeah, I mean...
Because they weren't anticipating Rory McArdle having one of his good days.
It's funny, isn't it?
Which sounds like something you'd say about one of your grandparents as well, actually.
Yeah, indeed.
He knew who I was today.
McArdle knew who he was, which was a header-winning defender. Hartridge is really good in the air, isn't he? And so I suppose...
I've said before about the technique on his header, on his defensive headers is like so satisfying to watch. It's proper like, you know, when they say smashing the pane of glass with your head.
Yeah.
You know, that whole thing. It's properly like that, like arms out and then kind of thrusts forward, and elbows back. It's
He's got it.
It's lovely to watch.
So I think, hopefully, our defensive frailties, I'm not talking this year, but over the course of the next few years, will diminish. Like, Anderson's much better at coming for crosses, like we've said, than either Ward or Maxted. Hartridge will get better at being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, although, I mean, technically we've only got Anderson for another few
I know
games,
that's true.
haven't we? But
I think if Anderson doesn't stay, if we don't get him next year, and I know Taylor's keen on that, but if he doesn't stay, we'll still see a new keeper coming, won't we? Like, Maxted's not going to be number one choice, is he?
you can't go back now, can you? Surely.
No, I wouldn't think so.
You can't have a taste of the Anderson.
No.
You can't have a taste of that Icelandic goodness.
Yeah.
And go back to what's a famous Icelandic food? Some sort of fish.
Yeah, sure.
Some sort of smorgasbord of you know. You can't have a little bite of that. No. And then go back to a Ginsters.
No, you can't. I mean that's why Matt went to Iceland, of course. But you wonder. I mean, yeah, Maxted was a 2-year contract, presumably, wasn't he? And this is his second year. So
I've no idea. Would that be the case?
I don't think we ever go for more than 2 years.
Okay.
With anyone who's not a youth team player. I think that's the stance these days. So yeah, unless he signed an extension last summer, which I doubt he would have, given that we had two good keepers.
Right. Yeah. I don't know.
And Ward's on loan, isn't he? So he's not. But also it's the end of his contract this year.
Right. Interesting, isn't it? You know, I mean, if
Ward's not playing at Portsmouth.
No, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I think he'd only ever brought in his backup, wasn't he? They already had a perfectly good keeper. It's weird, isn't it? Again, because it's this sort of new territory for us, because we had so many years of Christy Pym, and then all of a sudden we've had 3 keepers in, 2 seasons?
There's 2 young boys, aren't there?
Plus
on the
Dino
bench?
Visser.
Yeah, let's never forget him.
There is. Well, there's
The good one.
there's Harry Lee, who if
But he's 15.
we
is that
haven't
right?
seen, but if Matt Taylor's to be believed, is the reincarnation of Bert Troutman, or
Imagine.
or let's get a bit of a more contemporary reference for the youngsters. Who's good? Schmeichel?
Yeah.
Have you heard of him?
Which one?
Sorry, Peter. And if you're even younger, Casper.
Yeah. So there is that stuff. I mean,
Can he be reincarnated of somebody who's still alive?
don't think that works.
I don't think any of it works really. But.
But fair comment. So yeah, that's the kind of state. But yeah, you can see that Hartridge is, really growing in stature kind of every game, isn't he? So they defended really, really well. It was lovely to see. Very nice to grind out the 1-0. Another positive after last week, saying we'll never see him again. Who even is he? We've forgotten about him already.
Yeah.
Randall Williams comes back.
Who knew that it would be like us to kind of, overblow something?
Doesn't sound like us at all. So yeah, Randall Williams
Maybe
was
we've
back.
just willed it to happen.
Maybe.
Maybe he's heard it and it's spurred him on.
Let's hope so. We do have that.
He was back. It was like I was almost emotional.
Well, yeah.
Well, I was very pleased to see him come on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think maybe it's because we do kind of need him at the moment.
Yeah.
You kind of thought you'd never see him again, and he is a kind of he is a good player, isn't he? I mean,
A talisman at times.
yeah, the divine ponytail.
Yeah, I love it.
I mean, that's someone else's nickname, isn't it? But can he have it?
Yeah. We've
Good.
bequeathed it to him.
He had a nice new pair of boots on.
What colour?
I think they were kind of white boots. But I've only noticed that because of the colour, and I don't remember him looking like that before.
No, okay. Welcome back, Randall Williams. Good to see you.
Didn't do much, but he got on the ball, didn't he?
Well, he was on for 10 minutes, wasn't he? So presumably there's opportunity for him to start the next game. But I
I'd
don't
love to see it.
I mean, it'd be interesting to see what he does with Wilmot and etc., isn't it?
Well, with Sparks, I imagine, would be the one.
And Sparks got injured but stayed on, didn't he?
He had a bit of a knock, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think he was just trying to win him. You know when there's a hint of a elbow to the face,
Is that what it was?
they have to go down as if it's really bad, in the hope that maybe the other player. Maybe he wasn't being this cynical, but I get that impression. That's what goes on.
Okay.
I think he's all right, but I think Randell, we'd have him down the left. We don't tend to play left footers on the right wing and and vice versa much. We tend to set up with left footers on the left wing, right footers on the right wing. So I imagine that would be him in for Sparks in the absence of Joel Randall, if that was the case.
Guess so, yeah.
And I think Jack Sparks has been brilliant, but perhaps he's not. Well, he's definitely not as accomplished a player as Randell.
The other thought
At their best.
Because, of course, Wilmot can play either side, and Williams does like to cut in, doesn't he? Run up the right and cut in on his left. So.
Yeah, but I don't think. But this season we've not done that
No,
much. As in,
true.
we've not inverted the wingers much. We occasionally do it for spells in the game.
I mean, it's nice to know that both of them can do it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that was that. 1-0. Very nice. Then a Tuesday, not off this week. So it's a Good Friday and Easter Monday game. More about that in a second. Welcome back to Easter. Happy Easter, everyone. 2 games coming up over the festive weekend. So Good Friday, it's Wade Port Vale, Vale Park. And then Easter Monday, it's Mansfield at home. Really makes me miss being able to be there.
Yeah.
Easter
it
Monday.
really does.
Imagine
yeah.
that. It's warm, getting warmer, promotion chasing, or certainly games, stuff to play for in the games. Can't be there. Stuck on iFollow.
Pack of mini eggs.
Oh, lovely. Hot cross bun.
I mean, have you ever taken a hot cross bun to a football match?
Maybe this would be the year. But not. No, I haven't.
Normally at Easter, I go along with a basket full of chocolate eggs.
Yeah. Hand them around to all and sundry.
Yeah, skip around the ground, handing them out.
Yeah. Lovely.
But won't be able to do that this year.
Yeah, it's a shame, innit? Wearing an Easter
Have
bonnet.
to do it on Zoom.
Yeah. So that's what's coming up. Both of those teams, I would have said, are probably high victims of not having good academies, not being able to bring players through, having to buy their players, affected by attendance, etc., etc. Because really, both in normal seasons would be promotion hopefuls. They're next to each other in the league, 17th and 18th currently. Oh, sorry, my mistake. 18th and 19th. Mansfield, Nigel Clough at the minute, brought him in.
Clough.
It's not been an upturn. Port Vale looked quite good.
Dining out on his dad's reputation for nigh on 30 years.
And he was good at Burton, wasn't he? He kept them going. But, I think it's the thing with... He's a bit of a Tisdale in a sense that, like, when a club's expectations are intertwined with you as a manager, you get away with a lot more. So Burton, kind of yo-yo, don't they, between Championship and League One.
Yeah, maybe you're right, yeah.
When you leave there, what have you got? So he's now at Mansfield. Obviously, they always spend the money and then...
They do. Yeah.
Don't often have much success with it. So
they've had better seasons than this, haven't they? I always think of them as being around, kind of almost on the same level as Exeter, as in always sort of up there in the playoffs kind of stuff. But they're really not this season.
No,
and that's despite the best efforts of young Jamie Reid.
I know, yeah. Because of course they spent money on him when actually we might have liked to have had a look at him if he hadn't cost as much. So it's...
I'd still like to have a look at him.
Yeah, I would too.
But, I think probably that ship sailed and we need to leave it. But
just leave it, Dan. Yeah.
He might not want to come back here,
No, he might well
He
not.
might be enjoying himself up in Mansfield.
Good luck to him. I mean, I don't think there's much to enjoy in Mansfield, but there you are. The Peak District's nearby.
Yeah.
But there we are. So
maybe Jamie likes a little walk up there.
Do you think he does?
Goes
to visit...
one of the few things you're allowed to do, isn't it? So whether he enjoys it or not.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure he has been.
Poor old Jambo. So that's...
But first, Port Vale, isn't it?
Port Vale first, yeah. So that's away.
On Good Friday, so that's a good omen for us, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Not for them, because... yeah, I don't know. I think they're both, as we've said all season, that in theory they're winnable games. Doesn't seem to mean anything in this league, and certainly not with Exeter City this year.
I very much, hope we attack this game.
Yeah.
I see absolutely no reason why not to. I'll be very disappointed if we take too much of a cautious approach like we have done in the past. I mean, I'd be surprised actually, because I don't, like I said, I can't think of a single reason why we would.
No.
Given that there's about 10 games left now, and these are teams which we absolutely have to beat.
Yeah, it is. It's 10 games, isn't it, left? So 10 games for City. Some other teams obviously have played a few more games. I mean, it's really interesting. Like, I'd given up on, as is the way, you may have noticed, listeners, I like to oscillate wildly between we're champions already and what's the point of anything. Now I'm kind of in a state of like, well, I don't really know.
Welcome to my world.
I can't really bear the thought of playoffs, to be honest. But also, I'd like the season to go on a bit longer. I'd like to be able to go to a game at the end of the year.
I mean, that's the one reason why I'd like to be in it, really. I mean, apart from the fact that the chance of promotion, but playoffs in my mind don't really represent a chance of promotion. Just because that's sort of my conditioning to them, having lost 3 in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea that we might be able to go. I never thought I'd say this about going to Wembley, but I'd absolutely love to now.
And I think we could go to the semis as well, couldn't we?
Can you now?
Yeah, I think that hits after the date that the government say you can do it. I think.
Well, that'd be nice too.
So so that makes me think. Okay, I'm keen on that idea. We're still, even if we win our games in hand, we don't creep into the playoffs. So we have to do more than just that.
No. I think now it's basically 10 games to go. If we want to have any, there's no kind of like looking at like tactically, right? This one. We need to win as many as those games as possible.
Yeah.
And
30 points up.
If we lose any of them, then that might swing it. I mean, if we win 9 and lose 1, we'll probably be
if we win 9 and
in
lose
a good
1,
place. But I think we just have to see them as like, if we want to have any sort of chance of promotion promotion, whether it's playoffs or whatever, then we've got to get results from all of those games, really.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I agree
Which is
with that.
unrealistic, but, whatever.
We'll see. So, yeah, City sit in 8th with 56 points. We've played 36. So, most of the games in hand have been caught up now. A few teams above us have played one more. Cambridge have played 2 more. Cambridge will be our next opponents after that. So, week Saturday, it's Cambridge away. I mean, they're still in form. As much as anyone in League Two's in form. Everyone seems to be struggling to string more than a few wins together.
Yeah.
But Cambridge have got the goal difference that suggests they're likely to go up.
I don't think, again, I think more than ever this season, it's not really about what any of the other teams are up to. Because even the ones that have sort of, we've come into going like, oh, they've been good this season. Cheltenham, they weren't. We ended up losing to a long throw-in right at the end. It's just about how well the individual team does on the day, basically. Once you're of a certain level,
In terms of quality of football, our football isn't the 8th. It's better than the 8th best in the league, I would say. But of course, it's not about quality of football in League Two. It's about making results happen.
It's actually more about grinding out, I think, than great performances. But
we can think of a couple, can't we? We can think of Cheltenham away. We can think of Cheltenham at home. We can think of Newport away. We get anything from those, and our season, it's just that lack of grind, I think. But whatever, that's the way of it. So those are the 2 next games coming up. The only other kind of key bit of business was, I don't know about you, listener, but I was delighted to see Ollie Watkins come on for not just England reserves or England B or England under 21s. England. You may have heard of them, Dan. England.
I have. They're quite good, aren't they? I mean, the only caveat is obviously is against San Marino, the worst footballing team in the world.
Yeah.
But they all count. He scored an England goal, and on your England debut, it doesn't matter who it's against, does it?
It really doesn't.
And it was quite a surreal experience, wasn't it? I mean,
I've never heard Exeter mentioned so much.
It got to the point where I was starting to get quite insulted. To start with, I was really pleased. They're going like, oh, good, they've mentioned City. They haven't just gone like, oh, he's from Brentford and worked his way up. They mentioned Exeter, but they kept going on about can you believe it? This guy used to play for Exeter City, the shittest team in the world.
That was the subtext.
Yeah.
But whatever, I'll take it. Because normally,
take it.
Brentford didn't even get mentioned. Normally they'd be like, I can think of players that have played in the Championship who come up through, and that's a big story. So,
exactly. So that's what you expect. Yeah. No, it's really good. And like I said, it's quite surreal, wasn't it, to see this lad who used to watch every week, just right in front of you there for Exeter, which I always just see as such almost like a different sport to watching international football.
Yeah.
I mean, fair enough, we'd probably batter San Marino.
Yeah.
I think their population is about the same size as Exmouth, but even so, it's still in the kind of they're in that world, aren't they? Of what, and it was just I found it quite it's bizarre. And
more interestingly than anything else, Gareth Southgate wants him in and around the squad. So this isn't the end of the journey. This was Watkins' chance to show he's worth of consideration.
Well, international tournament this summer, isn't there?
There is, yeah.
Now, let me ask this: I only really care about when does the money dry up?
I don't know.
I know that we not the only thing I care about. But
I know that we got 75,000 for him coming on as a sub.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's 150 for a start, right?
Is that every start?
I think it's got a cap.
Okay.
Of about 5 million ones. Well, not to us. 5 million to Brentford, of which we get 10% of these add-ons.
Right.
So
maybe a couple more games.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, remarkable. I mean, I was just so pleased for him. He was so chuffed, wasn't he? So chuffed. I
mean, you would be.
Yeah.
And it's not like he's a bit. He's not quite Jamie Vardy, is he? Do you know what I mean? But he's a bit of a kind of, in terms of his kind of rags to riches. But he didn't move to a Premier League club as a 12, 13-year-old like a lot of those players in there. I'm not taking anything away from Mason Mount or but he works up from being a professional player in the lower leagues in League Two, and not
he was great, but he wasn't
Well, I ask you this: how on earth did we not win that game?
Yeah.
When he was playing,
yeah,
and now he's scoring for England.
I know.
Are you joking?
Did you think that was? I was thinking it was weird that it's the same pitch, obviously.
It's the same pitch.
We sat there and it was that game. There he is. Yeah, I know.
That is ridiculous.
Well, whatever.
It's got a good team around him as well. It wasn't like it was just him.
No.
Yeah, I can't. I'll never get over that.
I mean, no, indeed. So there we are. Chuff for Watkins. Obviously, Tag is planning how he can best get Watkins' face on that electronic scoreboard as often as possible. How many more electronic scoreboards this means for him, etc., etc.
Can we mow Ollie Watkins' face into the pitch?
Yeah, it'd be that kind of thing, wouldn't it? I look forward to the third kit next year, which is just Watkins' face, Watkins' picture on a T-shirt.
Maybe it could be that. The one downside, actually, to Ollie Watkins making his England debut and scoring was we were wearing a blue kit.
Shame.
What's that about?
Yeah,
Is that to match the blue Brexit passport or something?
Perhaps.
Like, what's that about? England don't wear blue.
Well, occasionally it's
All right,
there,
okay,
isn't
we've
it?
had a couple of them, I
Yeah.
suppose, in the past, but still, it was a bit like, what's this?
Weird.
We had that sort of like Coventry kit, didn't we? Like
Yeah.
back in 1990 or whatever. But
I don't want to, cast aspersions on the good people at the FA, but I'd suggest it's all about selling a few more kits.
no, they wouldn't do that.
Imagine. I mean, we can talk. We got a black one that we don't need. Anyway, there we are. So that was that. Lovely to see, and many congratulations to Watkins, who was, just always a good lad for us,
Yeah,
and continuing to be a good lad for everyone else.
I've seen that Argyle goal do the rounds again.
Always good to see that.
In the wake of his England debut. Well, if you haven't seen that enough times already, if you've seen the version which is just him doing the step over and smashing it in, you've got to see the touch that comes before the step over.
Oh, yeah.
So search out the longer version because he plucks it down out of the air, sort of behind, with his foot behind another player, and somehow brings it around. You'll see what I mean if you watch it, but don't settle for just the step over and the shot. It's all about that first touch.
Excellent. Well, you've endured that defensive heading display on Saturday, so you deserve something of quality, listener. So go and find it and enjoy it.
Please do.
Anyway, remember you can get in touch with us in all the normal ways. We'll be back after Easter Monday, I guess Tuesday, probably realistically, to talk you through what will then be the final 8 games. Nearly the end.
Wow, yeah.
Been a long old season, and then also it's suddenly really sped up, hasn't it? But there we are. What can you do? Tell you who it hasn't sped up for. All those managers that Salford sacked. Lol.
No. What are they up to now?
What about Joey Barton? We don't mention him often.
Ah, yeah.
Has he
Glad
got
you
anything to say
remember this.
recently?
Well,
Why are we talking about him, first of all?
I saw this on, someone posted it on, I think, XWeb, the Exeter City forum. And it's a clip of Joey Barton being interviewed. Obviously, he's now Bristol Rovers manager.
Sure.
Previous manager was our old friend Paul Tisdale.
Yep.
And
You might know him from videos about body language on YouTube.
Joey Barton, not by name, but by implication, accuses Paul Tisdale and whoever was the manager before of negligence.
I think it was... Isn't it criminal? No, it's not criminal negligence, but he says if he was a doctor...
He'd been struck off.
Fuck off.
Yeah. And he invites Paul Tisdale and other previous coaches to call him up and so he can explain further why they were negligent and to teach them a thing or two about not being.
I mean, he's got some gall, hasn't he, Joey?
I mean, do you know why he got sacked why he left Fleetwood?
I believe he had a punch-up with the Barnsley manager in the tunnel, didn't he?
There was that. There was also the fact that he'd been berating his squad and not letting them wear tights or gloves. And then that guy, Ched Evans, whatever his name is.
Oh, yeah, of course.
For kind of one of these sort of forfeits they do for maybe getting booked or something.
Right.
Had to do his forfeit. Anyway, he showed a video to the team in front of Barton of all the times throughout Joey Barton's career that he himself had worn gloves and tights and whatever. And far from seeing the funny side of it, Joey Barton went mental, got in a big argument with him, supposedly, or this is a reason, and then it resulted in him leaving Fleetwood as a result.
Wow.
And also Ched Evans leaving.
Wow.
So if you're going to come for Paul Tisdale and you're behaving like that and all the other things you've done in your life and you sit there going on, quote Carl Young, and having a go at Tisdale, get bent. That's my 2-word message for you, Barton.
You know those dinner parties.
And if you want to ring me up, Joey Barton, and ask me about it, then go for it.
I'd love a phone.
My number is 07. It's all the sevens.
You know those dinner party things you do? You're like 6 dinner party guests that you'd love to have from anyone.
Dead or alive.
Yeah. So everyone chooses Nelson Mandela, etc.
I'd actually choose Jesus Christ and Hitler.
Do you know who'd be absolute bottom of my list?
Barton.
And Ched Evans. I mean, seriously, those 2 clowns.
Yeah.
But
I'd have Tisdale there, though.
Would you?
Actually, would I?
Would he bring his
He'd quite
vintage
annoy-
tennis
annoy- a bit
rackets to
annoying.
serve the dinner on?
He'd bring a good bottle, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
You know he'd bring a good
He'd knock on the
vintage.
door and you'd open it. He'd be stood there doing a weird pose and be like, "Have you seen my YouTube video on body language?" Anyway. Wow, Joey.
I'd have Tag at mine.
What a collection. I mean, seriously, what a collection of absolute clots. Seriously, Ched Evans, Tisdale, Barton. Why are we talking about these
Let's not put Tisdale in with them two.
monstrosities? No, all right.
He's a fine servant to our club. We've just done a couple of slightly embarrassing YouTube videos.
All right, fair enough. But Watkins, I don't want to besmirch the good name of Watkins when I'm bringing it down to this level. Anyway.
No, I agree. Anyway.
Thanks for listening. If you've got any top tips on who you'd invite to your dinner party, apart from Watkins, of course, or how Tisdale might quaff the wine.
Let's put this question out there.
Yeah.
It's an Exeter City-based dinner party.
Oh, yeah,
right?
nice.
You can have 4 guests.
Yeah.
They've all got to be linked in some way, however tenuous, to Exeter City.
Yeah, and you can't say Athena.
Yeah, you can say Athena. If you want Athena, you absolutely can have.
I don't think
you can
that's
have her
allowed.
there. Yeah,
All
any tenuous links at all, anyone you want. There's no limits on this.
All right.
And so who would come and what would you cook?
Okay, let us know in all the normal places, bigbankpod@gmail.com or on Twitter @bigbankpod. We'd love to hear. Facebook as well, of course.
I'll provide my answer to this on next week's show.
All right, we look
as
forward
will
to it.
you.
Okay, I'll have to think about it. Yeah, all right, but no Athena.
Yeah, you don't have to invite Athena if you don't want to. I'm not promising she's not on my list.
All right, fair enough. Well, thanks everyone for listening. My name's John. I've been here with my friend and colleague Dan.
Cheers.
See you soon.